Lied and used fake documents to obtain the interview with my mother. Made lurid and false claims about the royal family.
Tucked away for decades in a private vault, shielded from the public and even from the royal family, a deeply personal and previously unknown letter written by Princess Diana to a young Prince William has finally come to light. The discovery, made by a former palace aide during a private archive review, has stunned royal historians and sent waves of emotion rippling through the public consciousness. Unlike the usual fanfare surrounding royal relics, this letter carries a soul-stirring gravity because it wasn't merely a ceremonial note or a public speech draft. It was a mother's words, penned quietly during a moment of uncertainty, sealed with the kind of truth only spoken when one suspects the world might change forever. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The letter dates back to the spring of 1996, a turbulent time in Diana's life. Her marriage to Prince Charles was officially unraveling. Her place within the monarchy was becoming increasingly uncertain, and the global media storm around her life was reaching fever pitch. Amidst all of this, Diana found a moment to sit alone and write. This wasn't a public gesture, but a profoundly private act, one seemingly meant to offer guidance, love, and perhaps even apology. Written not for immediate discovery, but for some unknown moment in the future. The letter was addressed simply, "To my darling William when the time is right." That line, handwritten in her unmistakable script, already hinted at an awareness that its contents might be opened long after the ink had dried. This was not an everyday note. It was something more sacred, something designed to outlast her own time on Earth. That she chose to write it in the midst of her most chaotic personal storm is telling. Diana knew the power of her words, but this time, she was writing not for the cameras, not for charity boards, not for the tabloids, only for her son. What makes this revelation so extraordinary is not just the existence of the letter, but the emotional and psychological landscape it opens up. Diana was no stranger to isolation, vulnerability, and betrayal. She often spoke about feeling like an outsider within the palace walls. But here in this letter, she appears to have translated those painful experiences into a quiet legacy of wisdom. Not as a public figure, not as the people's princess, but as a mother stripped of all titles and spotlight, speaking directly to the future king, not in platitudes, but in raw, human truth. She wrote about love, the kind that endures scrutiny, endures time, endures being silenced. She wrote about fear too, not the fear of death or scandal, but the fear that the people she loved most would be groomed by a system that didn't always protect sincerity. She asked questions in the letter, some rhetorical, some pointed. And while the full contents remain carefully guarded and will not be released in their entirety, palace sources have confirmed that the letter reveals an unprecedented level of emotional openness. She spoke of how proud she was of William, even as a child. She reflected on moments they had shared, sometimes just in passing, like watching him sleep after a long day, and how those moments made the chaos around her feel, even for a moment, far away. Perhaps the most poignant aspect of the letter is the way it addresses the concept of duty. Diana understood better than most that royal duty often required a type of emotional disconnection, an ability to present a composed facade even in moments of heartbreak. In her letter, she didn't reject that concept outright. Instead, she reframed it. She seemed to plead for a future in which her son might redefine what duty meant, not as an inheritance of stiffness, but as a calling grounded in empathy. She wanted him to rule, perhaps not as a traditional king, but as a human being who leads with heart first and protocol second. The timing of the letter's writing adds a layer of urgency to its tone. 1996 was a year thick with both personal and public drama for Diana. Just months after her divorce from Charles was finalized, she found herself increasingly isolated from the institution she had once tried to navigate with poise and hope. It's entirely possible that, sensing the increasing unpredictability of her position and her safety, she wrote the letter as a contingency, a spiritual insurance policy of sorts, for a future that might unfold without her in it. There is also something haunting in the very fact that the letter was never given to William directly during her lifetime. Whether she feared the consequences or simply wanted him to find it when he was ready, that delay adds an eerie echo of anticipation. The letter feels like it was suspended in time, waiting patiently for the moment it would matter most. The revelation of it now, so many years after her death, adds a layer of mythos to her legacy. This was not a message lost. It was a message preserved, buried like a seed, now finally blooming into meaning. Royal insiders have long speculated about the presence of undisclosed writings from Diana. She was known to be a prolific note writer, often leaving warm, handwritten messages to friends, staff, and her sons. But this letter exists on an entirely different plane. It is neither casual nor performative. It was not written in haste. Every word, it seems, was chosen with deliberate care. Even the paper itself, thick, cream-colored, delicately scented, suggests she wanted it to last, not disintegrate with time. The implications of this letter extend far beyond the personal. In the context of the monarchy, it introduces a rare moment of emotional transparency. The British royal family has built much of its identity around stoicism, around keeping personal feelings locked behind closed doors. Diana's letter breaks that mold, even posthumously. It is a living example of how humanity can exist within heritage, how vulnerability can be preserved as part of a royal record, not in spite of tradition, but as an expansion of it. It's impossible to overstate the emotional resonance such a discovery has. For William, now a man, a husband, a father, and a future king, the letter offers something that time had stolen from him. A new moment with his mother. A chance to hear her voice once again, not in a video, not through a documentary, not filtered by others, but directly, quietly, as if she were sitting beside him in the stillness of a private room. What that must feel like can only be imagined by those who have lost someone before they could fully understand them. There's also a certain poetic symmetry to the letter's discovery now. The world is once again at a crossroads with the monarchy. Questions about its relevance, transparency, and humanity are louder than ever. In that sense, Diana's voice, long silenced, returns at a moment when it is perhaps most needed. Her letter is not a manifesto. It's not a rebellion. It is, in essence, a compass, one that points toward a gentler, more emotionally intelligent path forward, not just for her son, but for the institution he may one day lead. One of the most intriguing aspects is what the letter doesn't say. While it reportedly mentions Charles only briefly and in neutral terms, it does not linger on her marriage or its breakdown. Nor does it speak of the scandals, the affairs, or the betrayals that dominated tabloid headlines. This absence is powerful. It suggests Diana didn't want William's memories or understanding of her to be shaped by bitterness. Instead, she wrote from a place of enduring maternal clarity. Her focus was forward-looking, not retrospective. She didn't try to shape her legacy in that letter. She tried to shape his. Her mention of Harry is also brief but tender. She acknowledged his role as both a younger brother and a contrasting personality. Diana always knew that her sons were different in temperament, and she loved them accordingly. But the letter remains centered on William. Not because he was the heir, but because she foresaw the burdens he would one day carry. And she wanted to lighten those burdens in any way she could, even if only with words from beyond the veil of time. The response from those who've read the letter in its entirety has been uniformly emotional. One former aide described it as the kind of letter that changes the way you see your own family. Another said it felt like reading a prayer written in ink. That's the kind of power it holds, not just as a document, but as a relic of lived emotion. It's more than just words on a page. It is, in every sense, an artifact of love, vulnerability, and hope. Its existence also calls into question how many more such letters might be out there. Did Diana write similar notes to Harry, to friends, to confidants? Or was this letter a singular moment, one crystallized from a unique blend of urgency, love, and foresight? The answer may never come. But what remains undeniable is that this letter, long hidden, now stands as a lighthouse in the dark for both William and the world that continues to be fascinated by Diana's life and legacy. There is a quiet kind of power in rediscovered words. Unlike news reports or documentaries, a letter holds intimacy. It carries breath, cadence, and pauses that live between the lines. Diana's voice, captured in ink, reveals not just what she thought, but how she thought. And it shows us that in the midst of royal protocols and responsibilities, she never lost her sense of self. She never stopped being, above all, a mother who loved without boundaries. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us, what do you think Diana's letter says to William? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.